that is you assert the majority will in a direct political form.
Okay, begs the question. How do you assert the will of the majority? Further, how do you assert it in a political form? So you can see right now, we talk about politics all the time. There's no hope through politics. Politics is a game of money. Forget even for a moment the social morality that we are all swimming around in the universe with in the West. Forget about that for a moment, even though that's all consuming and all determinative. If you were to ignore that for a moment, for a thought experiment, and just accept the reality that politics is a game of money, you see that there's no hope. There is no hope. They have infinite monetary resources. You are not starting a political party and recapturing our destiny. There is no hope of that until we win on the social moral level, which is the ground level upon which everything is built. So you can hear right now, can't you? I know somebody like the great Fourneau can hear right now these followers saying, no, Joel has the answer. You just have to assert the political will of the majority, because they are rank midwit slop. They don't know that that's the equivalent of saying, we just need the Martians to fight with us. If the Martians fight, you just have to assert the political will of the majority. Talk about putting the cart ahead of the horse. That's more like killing the horse. Killing the horse and then saying, we just need to reach our destination. Well, you've just killed the horse.
There is no form more pure that I can see in history of doing that than the National Socialists of Germany.
Okay, so there you have the National Socialists of Germany, purest form. That's how you assert the will of the majority. Okay, and continues to beg the question.
Where it was completely totalizing and comprehensive.
Okay, here you go with a history lesson about National Socialist Germany and how it worked. That's ahistorical. That is ahistorical. It's ignoring an enormous amount of context.
Political project anchored in that fundamental principle. And so that's why I derive not only inspiration from that project, but also why that project needs to be rehabilitated. Because if that project...
Okay, there goes the rehabilitation. The project, you see, if you say it in a certain way, it sounds better than totally asinine, which is what it is. You need to play the villain, and you need to tell all of your friends, family, strangers, bosses, coworkers, you need to tell them that Hitler was right, the Nazis were right, and you need to convince them all of it. That's the stupidity. But when he says that it's this project and he uses this different vernacular, it sounds better. At least it sounds better for the midwit slop out there.
Project is demonized and is considered this great historical evil. And there isn't some kind of, revisionist process where we can bring those ideas back into the discussion where we can...
Okay, so revisionist history can't be done, been failing for generations.
Can consider them again in an open way and consider their strengths and weaknesses or whatever. We can't have that kind of mature discussion about them. We then basically have completely cut ourselves off from being able to form a robust and militant liberal nationalism.
There he says illiberal again.
Themselves off, kind of mature discussion about them.
So look at what Joel's about to say. That he personally has, over the years, come face to face with the anti-white argument that, this is National Socialism, this is Nazism, and he's saying there's no way around it, except there is. I've been doing it for decades. I've been winning and counseling people to victories innumerable. Nonpareil. So he's saying there's no way around it. You have to play the villain. And I'm saying decades ago, I figured out how to get around it with victories, with receipts, with people who continue to have victories. So he's saying, since there's no way around it, even though there is, You have to go out there and rehabilitate. Now, I would like to know, just for example, Joel is able to make these. And again, this is the mentality like of a psychopath, somebody who only cares about themselves. Where is he living? Where does his money come from for his food, for his health insurance, his dental visits, his doctor visits, the petrol in his automobile, the automobile itself? Where is that all coming from? It's secured somehow so that he can be out in public and he can be saying these things, assuming the role of the villain. But what about you? If you assume the role of the villain in the anti-white narrative, is your dental insurance going to be there for you? Is your job going to be there for you? Is your wife going to be there for you? Are you going to continue to be able to pay for your... Joel's not thinking about that at all, about you. I've been pulling my hair out over the decades. How in God's name does anybody listen to somebody like this?
We then basically have completely cut ourselves off from being able to form a robust and militant illiberal nationalism that...
Robust, militant. Did you hear that word? He used illiberal again, which people are going to interpret as limiting their life, limiting their choices, limiting their pursuit of happiness, limiting, etc. What is militant? He wants to form something militant. What is militant? Violent. How are you going to explain that to the police? How are you going to explain that to your family when the police show up and say, well, you're for this militancy? And then when the cop leaves and your wife is screaming at you over, are you part of some sort of violent endeavor?
That is capable of doing what is necessary, in my view, to say.
So, in his view, what is necessary to recapture our destiny is militant. Just pay close attention to those kind of words, because the most important thing here is that no one saying that is going to do anything militant. None of these losers ever do. Bottom line, this is all about fantasizing. This is all, especially when it comes to the militant type statements, it's all about sticking your chest out and acting like a tough guy and doing nothing. But he says it's going to have to be violent. What do you think the odds are that white people are going to violently overthrow the governments of our countries? Zero. Zero. You can sit around all day and talk about the idealistic scenario where we're able to recapture our destiny by the means that you think is possible, and nothing will happen because you're just sitting around and theorizing about it. And you know what ends up happening is, since Joel is a thinker about these things, when he gets questioned, he can just say he's theorizing. He's just talking. He's just thinking about these things. He thinks these things need to be done. Do you have the same excuse? It's just like Fuentes. Are you going to be able to say convincingly that you are Mexican?
Save our people, because I think only a radical political project is ultimately going to be capable of addressing the great crisis of demographics. The way.
And look, I can't be too hard on the midwits, because when you're a midwit, everything that doesn't work, you reach for a hammer, even if the hammer is been heated up to 7,000 degrees. You're going to grab it. That's how a midwit works. There is a way, and we are executing that way successfully, demonstrably, empirically. It's just beyond the stupidity of it's got to be violent. I cannot tell you how many times I've listened to these kind of folks sit around campfire, sit around bonfire, sit around dressed up in three-piece suits and vests, highly read, erudite, sophisticates sit around and say things like, well, it's got to be violent. This is actually shameful of the white race. Sometimes I see these kinds of conclusions and the kind of audiences that they draw, and I think, are these people even white? Have I been lied to about the greatness of the white race?
In which, for example, my country, but this is true for pretty much every country, the way in which we've been integrated into this global marketplace and we've lost so much of our economic sovereignty in addition to having all these foreigners brought in.
And so here you, again, the padding. Here's the padding again. Do you notice that when I articulate what we do, I never have to pad? But these folks, they always have to pad.
And our elites are all traders that are part of an international clique. And obviously the role of Jewish subversion, but not just that, communist subversion, and so on. When the National Socialists came to power, they eradicated Marxism. They removed Jews from all positions of power.
Okay, so here you go. You're getting it. So he's about to come up to saying it, right? All of these good things happen if you play the villain in your life. All of this good will happen if you just play the villain. And of course, none of that is going to happen. Never has. And for most of these people, they hide their power level because they don't want to subject themselves to the consequences of being ostracized for being immoral, or more extreme, although that's pretty damn extreme, but more direct, maybe firings and being thrown out of your family and losing your wife, etc. But the ones that do have those outcomes to look forward to. Ye's Law, as I coined it.
They completely crushed Freemasonry. They wiped out all the enemies of the German people from political life.
So if you just play the villain, all the enemies of our people will be wiped out. That's literally the midwit slop that he is selling you.
From public life. They banned foreign-owned media. They banned Jewish-owned media. Only media that was by the German people, for the German people, in the interest of the German people, was able to exist. And so they protected the collective psyche of their people from subversion by alien and hostile foreign elements.
So you can hear these people, followers of Joel, now arguing against me, saying they protected their people against these foreign elements. Why would you be against that? That's the kind of stupidity that I've had to deal with.
That isn't a liberal idea. That's an idea, nevertheless, that I support and is necessary. And a liberal nationalist movement isn't able to be as totalizing, where you could seize state power, where you could use
seize. You play the villain, and you will seize state power.
Power to totally crush the enemies of your people, and instead
crush them. So this violence of crushing the opposition.
Initiate a positive project for basically.
Look, you can see that expression Mark just gave. My guess, knowing Mark for all those years, in fact, I'm 100% sure, although he probably wouldn't own up to it. He was getting irritated with the padded part of what Joel was saying. He's like, yeah, I get it. I know what happened in Nazi Germany.
Developing the blood and quality of the race of your nation in very explicit terms.
Jason, why would you be against developing the blood and quality of your nation in very explicit terms?
National Socialism does this. National Socialism.
Did you just hear it? Did you just hear it? Did you just hear it? Who heard what he just said? Craig the Man says, he said, defeated National Socialism, not defeated white people, which shows he is just defending a concept. Beautifully written. Great point and great catch by Craig. I came late, so I could be missing some context, though. Craig wrote on. The secret to getting your chat read by No White Guild is tagging him in the message. Thank you very much for helping out there, Sloth. Stumbling is here. Cindy Ben is here. Moonrise Bay, who said, and I'll ask you, Moonrise Bay, where is you wrote so pragmatic, real life stuff. Where is the pragmatism in the 2.5 hours? I watched it. He says, though, Moonrise Bay, do you think wearing jewelry, pendants such as the Mjolnir is inadvisable or no? It's a deeper existential crisis for me, questioning religion as part of our destiny. It depends on what your audience knows or does not know about those things, and if you're going to have to explain and what you have to be able to tell them.